This is Idreaminstereo, and you guys are fucking with the GUTS podcast.
Hey! Me and Ghetto Boys are trick-or-treating.
Wait, this shit be more harder than bedrock. Bitch, I'm so fresh like I'm dead stock. Colorful diamonds like peacock. Yeah, check out the wrist watch. Match.
Welcome to GUTS. Welcome to GUTS podcast. It's Zane on the vision.
It's your boy Space Viking.
Lucky as me.
With us in the GUTS Lair.
Yes.
Been trying to get him for a minute.
Finally got him.
The mastermind.
We kidnapped him.
Evil genius.
Idreaminstereo, Jason Barton.
Jason Barton.
Hey!
Yeah. Go find him right now at Idreaminstereo.
On Instagram.
Yeah, he's always dropping knowledge bombs. He's got music clips.
Yeah.
He's got viral memes. He's got everything you need, man. And he's also the hottest producer in Houston right now.
At Barron Studios.
At Barron Studios. Everybody's worked with him or is working with him in the future.
Definitely.
So to make you blush for a while.
jump on the gravy train.
Yeah, no shit. Go get your music done there too.
Seriously, I mean, I've been in the music game a long time, and I've yet to see an engineer that is as forward thinking and like he provokes the best performance out of every artist he works with. I mean, he's and not just that. When it comes to engineering and his ideas, he thinks outside the box. I think in 30 years they'll still be talking about his techniques.
I remember the first time when you brought me over there. It was like, come meet me at Barron Studios. Pretty dope. And it's live at studio, man. If you haven't been, because shout out to Lace too. I know Lace been over there. Jet the Third. You know, y'all been over there.
Oh, I love Jet the Third.
You know what I'm saying? I think Monk Vision done been over there. So you know,
man, I'm really trying to work with those guys, right? I want to do a project with them and Curly Sue all at the same time.
Shout out to Monk Vision,
Curly Sue,
Sue,
and Curly Sue, man. Hey, man, we went to Slump
Fest
last weekend. I think it was. Hey, man, them boys killed it, man.
Yeah.
Hey, the truth,
energy.
Man. Yeah, the energy.
It was like everybody was, and then after that,
it's like
people had to follow like shit.
Yeah, fuck, they doing mosh pits, they jumping off the stage.
When I first got involved in Houston music, it was in the punk band era. It was like the 30-Foot Fall and Latchkey Kids, and there was this good punk scene in Houston. Yeah. And these kid shows now, it's the same.
It's the same
thing.
exact thing.
It looks the same. It feels the same.
Yeah,
I love it.
Fucking jean jackets and killer clowns from outer space.
Oh
shows.
yeah. That's how
live. Yeah, I like killer clowns.
That shit, man.
I saw a Trap Kid with a Morbid Angel shirt on.
Yeah,
and I was like, fucking right, man. That's crazy.
And it's weird, but the testament to good what hip hop really does for culture though is when I was a kid, if you wore like a Deicide shirt or something, someone would check you like 100%.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Deicide song?
Yeah.
And now these kids though, it's so fashionable and it's just so part of American music culture now.
Yeah.
These kids are wearing like Morbid Angel and shit, and it don't matter now if they heard it or not.
Nah,
because
they
it's
just rocking it.
I'm
It's
not
just the
gonna
aesthetic.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of the guy that checks them still.
I'm
I'm kind of the guy. I was like, what's your favorite Morbid Angel?
I used to be like that too, but now
They should
I
do
just
that.
appreciate it for what
I
it
do
is.
like I told Austin all the time. I said, man, if I really haven't jammed the band, I'm not gonna rock it. You know what I'm saying?
neither.
I'm like
That's kind of our.
Yeah, I do. You know, smash it.
When we were growing up,
pumpkins,
you were a
like that.
fucking poser if you did.
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
So I'm like, I'm not finna
But-
work because if somebody asks you, you don't know. That's
But it's
fucked
cool what it's changed.
But what rap music does though, and the reason why I really only work in rap music, I don't do rock music no more. I don't do anything no more. Just rap stuff for like the last 8 years.
Oh shit.
Is because it takes everything that's out there,
Yeah.
grabs the best parts of it, and it just keeps destroying itself and rebuilding itself on that. And this is my problem with rock music now in general is, as soon as I hear that first fucking chord,
You
I
know
can
what
probably
it
tell
is.
you exactly what's
Yeah.
going on. And rock is stuck in this thing, and the reason why it's not doing so well is it's stuck in a retroactive thing.
Man, I totally agree, bro.
You know, everything is a rehash or a 1950s remake or this
Yeah.
or that, and that, like, where's it progressing? Where's it going?
It sounds like a different band from the past.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And there's a lot of bands like that, like Tame Impala and shit like that. This shit's dope.
Yeah.
But I already heard Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly. there's no bands coming through like Korn that are sounding way different from everybody else.
I don't get any new feelings when I listen to it. But when hip hop's doing it, they're not asking any permission or anything. They're just
they're just doing that.
They're doing it and worried about what happens. They're not even worried about what happens.
Because it's like a lot of people
If you
want
dig
to
it, you
create
dig it.
themselves. Because in hip hop, like you say, as soon as I hear a line, hear you sound like, I'm like, damn, you sound like such and such. And I don't think nobody want that, like, as far as their career, like, man, you kind of sound like Drake, or you kind of sound like this guy. But I like the fact that some new artists take lines from, like, you know, take a little line, and then you have to, like, damn, I heard that shit before. You know, shit like Drake took Project Pat line, and it made it his, but it's off the whole Project Pat song.
And it still blew up Project Pat.
It blew up Project Pat, because if you Google his lyrics, and it'll Project Pat.
You got all these kids in the suburbs like fucking with Project Pat now.
Yeah. He's probably like, damn, I got 100,000
Yeah, you really got streams and shit off that.
Oh
Yeah.
shit, they coming to my shit.
So hip hop, rap music can be retroactive, but still be
Definitely.
forward thinking.
Definitely, man.
And it's fizzling. Like at first, we thought it was just gonna fizzle out the radio thing and then the record sales thing. But now it's fizzling everything. So where everything is niche, all of it. So the big artists are gonna get the plays from the people headed home from work and shit like that. But there's still all this food for all the niche people to eat, you know.
Yeah.
And as long as you work hard and everybody's got a shot, because there's always that saying, there's enough for everybody to eat. Now we're proving it. Now we're really proving it, because before they would say there's enough for everybody to eat, but just a couple were eating, you know. Now everybody.
And just technology works so good for it too, because going back on the rock shit, like rock artists have been signed to labels and shit, they bitch right now.
Yeah.
They're all like, we're not making as much money on this and that and everything, or labels are hoeing us and everything, and like putting together the horrorcore playlist, like
that was live,
Brother
bro.
Lynch Hung has got millions of fucking streams on Spotify.
fucking
He
awesome.
never had that opportunity on a label, or like during the prime of his career putting stuff out.
Yeah.
So there's still an interest, and there's still a need, and there's still people going for that.
Yeah.
You listening to Ghetto Boys like Mind of a Lunatic, and these
My
guys
shit,
are talking about
man.
fucking smoking fry, cutting a bitch's head off and fucking her body while it
We
twitches.
shit talking about raping
Like,
and shit.
yeah,
It's
like
oh,
if he came out and Willie D's running for like city council.
It's only last night.
Oh no shit.
Vote for Willie D.
Yeah. Willie D and Scarface, man. Both running
Scarface, yeah.
Yeah,
I
man.
think I'm gonna do one of his
Brag.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
that shit is sick.
did you start in hip hop, or you started rock?
I kind of did everything simultaneously, because I had a hard time socializing and working with people, so I got really into 4-track recording and sampling and stuff like that. Just because I could do that on my own. But as soon as I figured out that if you play music, you can be a weirdo and still get pussy, then I started playing in bands and shit like that. But
It worked.
today's our anniversary, actually. Like,
Happy birthday, no less.
and it's Ryan's birthday today.
It's hip hop's birthday.
Oh, no shit.
August 11th.
Oh, fuck. Hey, see, y'all got a history lesson.
1980.
We got an anniversary, hip hop.
It's hip hop's birthday.
August 11th.
If they had a mat down here, I would break dance, but it's been a minute. So.
Man, you ain't shit.
Let's get our birthday suits.
Great
Hey,
day.
Turn the fuck up.
I know. Brace yourself, and my neighbors might be like, "What the fuck are they doing now?"
But man, we grew up, I'm 42, and I grew up in such a great age, because we were just CDs and shit are popping. Technology was making it more affordable to make great music. You had everything from like punk rock to like Ministry or like 9 Inch Nails and all this shit, and we got to witness that first thing where corporate music did not know what to do with the amount of shit that was coming out. So they signed everybody. So we got this. You could listen on the radio like when I was growing up and just hear shit that you would never hear now.
Yeah.
It's just
What's your favorite all-time band?
Ooh,
Man, what a great question.
Oh,
fuck, man.
Or top 5 or whatever.
I mean, the Beatles definitely got to be in there.
The Beatles.
The Beatles were the first ones to ever sample anything. Like, the mellotron you hear on Strawberry Fields, that little flute sound.
Oh, I like that
That
song.
was a
man.
fucking.
Yeah.
It was a piece of tape on a recorder, and you hit the key, and it plays a little tape of a sampled sound.
Yeah.
They were the first one to do cool backmasking, satanic shit in their songs.
Yeah.
Where they put shit in, they'd say some fucked up shit, put it in reverse, and just throw it in the song.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever listen to Revolution Number 9. It's just they were the first ones to do like avant-garde noise collages and shit in their songs.
Yeah.
You know,
They're real ahead of their time.
they went
People
from like,
didn't
I don't like
realize
that. I want to hold your hand there. I like that
Yeah.
White Album era where they
Yeah.
just kind of started getting trippy. And
A lot of
stuff.
people don't understand how weird it really got.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
experimental it really got.
Well, at that time, they were the first ones to use the recording as an instrument, or as like another member of the band, or the engineer as like another
So I was
member
about
of
to
the
say
band.
their producer
You
and
know,
their engineer was like he was as involved.
a few years ago, we were mobbing around, like about to walk through a club, you know, and I was feeling, you know, I had the snap going, and I played I Am the Walrus, you know, and I was like, and they were like, what the fuck are you listening to? Cuckoo, ka-choo! Yeah. But I just felt like that was mob music, you know, like I just felt like, you know, I just thought, yeah, the Beatles were tight, man.
You know, they had a song called Tomorrow Never Knows, and they took this drum loops and they just cut them on tape and looped it around. And it was like, that's the first time that drums were just cut into loops and looped around and shit like that. And they weren't even thinking it like that, but they were the first, they kind of did everything before anybody else did.
Of the game, man.
Favorite hip hop record is Dr. Octagon. It's an artist named Kool Keith. He used to be with Ultramagnetic MCs. He's got a project called Dr. Octagon where he the story goes like he lost his shit and he was sequestered in Bellevue Mental Hospital in New York. And he came out with this album and it was him and Dan the Automator and DJ Q-Bert, so it was like phenomenal fucking DJ that plays like 4 turntables at once.
So ridiculous.
And they made this album and it's just bro, just hearing that, because I go through periods where I check out of shit. As soon as it gets too homogenous, I'm like, okay, this is kind of boring. Let me get into something else. And that album, when it came out, I never heard anything like that before. He's just these weird ass flows. It's all sci-fi themed and theremin, and they just sample old sci-fi movies and shit. And it's just fucking amazing. And it became like the precursor to the Gorillaz.
Oh,
Because they wanted Kool Keith to be involved in it, and they booked all these Lollapalooza dates back in the day and shit. This motherfucker just didn't show up.
punk rock. Yeah, like I do what I want to do.
Oh, shit, man.
So they couldn't get it together. So the Automator and Q-Bert then went and started fucking around with Damon Albarn, and that started the Gorillaz after that.
That's crazy because you talk about like how music just like and it was crazy because like Tool, that's one of my favorite bands, and they just put them on Spotify like the other day. It's weird. They on Spotify now.
Yeah.
They were never on Spotify.
They were never on Spotify.
Anything.
Never.
Apple Music, anything.
And
Maynard James Keenan, like that guy.
Hey man,
listens to
it's
his
like
shit.
somebody was like, "Hey man, you need to be on here." So now it's like, they shit is just streaming. I bet they like, "What the fuck was we thinking?"
Yeah.
They shit is streaming now.
And the crazy thing, talking about back in the day, Tool, Slipknot, and Korn all put out new albums this week.
Yeah,
It's
that's
fucking
wild.
crazy.
I haven't heard any of them. I need
Yeah, I'm
to
gonna have
check
to
them
listen
out.
because somebody was telling me I'm gonna have to check them out.
Korn I was a Korn guy because they had like the hip hop in it a little bit,
Yeah.
but it was like gnarly dudes, and they were like a bunch of fucking pirates, and they weren't doing what anyone else was doing. They were making ugly sound dope.
This is what I like about where these kids are at right now. Kind of like on a Monk Vision or Curly Sue. I really fuck with like Zilla Kami and So Smooth. They got a little group called City Morgue out in New York. And when we were growing up, we had all these white suburban kids trying to incorporate rap into their music.
Yeah.
And it worked. Korn was one of the few ones that like were able to do it kind of successfully. Rage Against the Machine flawlessly.
Oh, yeah.
Beastie
yeah.
Boys ended up flawlessly.
Yeah. Rage is
But
shit, man.
but it was white man's trying to reincorporate black music and make it dangerous again.
Yeah.
But these kids now, they're not thinking about that.
Yeah.
They just fucking do it. And it's even more natural, and it even feels better. Like it just feels right. Like they kind of reclaim rock and roll without even thinking about it.
That whole vibe.
Hey,
of it is
Monk
like-
Visions, that hook is like, you know, a mosh pit. Like that's fucking sick,
Hey,
dude.
man, it's like,
And it works.
And the video was like, cause they said it was out like I think in Colorado somewhere, and they're like, man, it's like a good place to film this shit, and they filmed it. And I think Ty the Monk, shout out to Ty, that boy had purple hair and shit, and they all in the van, like beat his ass down in the mosh pit, like man, just the kids, they cold as fuck, man.
Bro, that's why I fuck with these kids, and they're not.
They cold as fuck.
My biggest problem with Houston as a music scene was and I get a lot of shit on this viewpoint, but I stand by it. Could you imagine if Atlanta put on for every one hit wonder that came out of Atlanta?
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine if Atlanta was still like fucking with Trinidad James real heavy?
Yeah.
And I feel like, and this is no disrespect to anybody that did anything out of here, but our vision was so short-sighted. And I know like you like that thing of like someone can be in the city and just live in that city.
Yeah.
And that's cool for you as an artist, but that's not cool for like a legacy.
Yeah. Because
The
it's
reason
like
why-
they thinking it's just they coming out of it.
Yeah, and like, you know, like Zero and none of these guys, like,
That's the thing. It
they don't
allows
give a
Zero
shit
to
about
sound-
touring or,
yeah.
or doing anything like that because they could just be right here, and that's cool. But I want legacy shit. This is why screw music was so crucial.
Yeah.
It was something that no one else was doing. It came out of here pre-fucking internet,
Yeah.
and the reason why people still fuck with it heavy is because it was just so different. But it was bigger than Houston.
Because Screw to me, like I always say, he's the one that like put me on to like East Coast music. Even though you just listen to it, but like Jay-Z, my first song hearing him was Screw. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, and I'm like, damn, what the fuck song is this shit? You know what I'm saying? Then it make you go get the album. Because like if any artists I start liking, I didn't be like, oh yeah, let me jump on the wave right now and go get their first album. Like for Nas, I only got It Was Written. And it was like on since then. Because I didn't look at it like, you know, he not rapping like us, but damn, listen to what he's saying. And I related to it. And the same with Jay-Z and shit too, man. I'm like, that Reasonable Doubt album to me is like, damn, dog.
Man, I'm not gonna lie, I did not fuck with Jay-Z until like 2 years ago.
Oh shit.
Because I was such a Nas fan.
Yeah.
I was like,
I went through that stage too.
And then with Pimp C, I was like, yeah, Pimp C said fuck him too.
Yeah,
So fuck it.
hey, I went through that stage too. People was like, "Hey man, that boy went that Nas hard." And when he did the Nas this, I'm like, "Ah, fuck." And then Nas came with that ether.
Going back to Screw, it happened the other way around too. So we used to drive. I'm from New Orleans. We used to drive from New Orleans. That's when I was selling drugs and shit. We used to drive to Houston and pick up packs and come back. Well, on the way back, we would pick up these Screw tapes. And eventually on the Screw tapes, I was starting to hear Master P and the Hot Boys and Juvenile.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know, like, none of us knew that anybody was listening to that shit besides us. We thought that was ours. We thought no one knew who Mystical was. You know?
But see, all that
And
was like
wait a
design
minute.
though too. Like at that time, the radio markets, they made a conscious effort to basically segregate music into pockets so they would be able to sell shit, you know, more effectively.
And then Screw just branched.
It worked.
And the underground DJ Screw, Swishahouse, these guys, they were like, oh wait, like we can distribute shit ourselves. We can move it around
a flow
ourselves.
on there. A lot of people on the Spice One is on the freestyle with them. You go check out that, and it's like, you hear that shit, you like, damn, man. Spice One came to Screw House and ripped that shit.
That shit's insane.
Shit crazy, man. And we love Spice One in Houston.
You can find footage of Screw like on before even just the Screw music developed, though, where he's DJing Posse on Broadway and shit like that.
Yeah.
He was a music lover.
Yeah, he loves it all, man. I give him that.
And I
It's
still
like-
work with a lot of SUC guys to this day.
That's dope.
Youngstar, SUC Wood.
I'm gonna have to turn you on to my little nephew, man. Shout out to Lord Ace, man.
Hey.
He got this one banger that's I'm gonna let you hear that.
Please do.
I ain't gonna lie, man. He played that bitch the other night. It was the first time he ever performed.
Yeah.
And the fucking roof flew
Yeah,
off that
man.
motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, everybody was losing their mind. It was
Yeah.
the first time he ever performed it.
Yeah,
You
he
know?
got that energy, man.
And he recorded the vocals right there.
Yeah, right
You
there
know
by
what
the
I'm saying?
refrigerator and shit.
And this is also why rap is dominating.
Yeah.
Like we can make music anywhere.
Yeah,
now.
you can bring it.
I'm more interested now is I want to come up with a little setup that I can just take anywhere.
Yeah.
And people want to record, like, let's go.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Oh
Yeah.
shit, man.
Yeah, so let's talk about spooky shit.
Yeah, let's talk about spooky shit.
All right.
So
He loves it. I've
Yeah.
never seen somebody that's so in love with horror than this fucking weirdo, man. He loves it. Even when he's here by himself, he'll send me a picture
I don't
at like
watch
3 in
anything
the
else.
morning, and he's watching some random ass trauma movie
Yeah.
from
Wow.
1991.
That's what the fuck.
Those guys are like the first like independent.
Yeah,
like,
that's what the
But
fuck.
he's watching it for the 14th time by himself in the middle of the night.
I don't like normal movies, man. I grew up. I was always a big film. Always liked movies when I was a little kid. But like when I was 6, my dad would take me to Jake's Manhattan, and I loved all the Halloween. I always wanted to live Halloween for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Always. And I never wanted to grow up. I was always on my Lost Boy shit, and that's just how I want to live life, you know. And something happened, you know. Like I got I went down a dark path, blah, blah, blah. I got sober, got my shit together, and then something happened where like I used to love, Back to the Future, all that shit, all movies, but something happened and it just flipped where nothing will entertain me like horror does.
Yeah.
Nothing will. I don't know why, and it's just what I like, and that's
just
all I
It's
watch.
like what's it called? It's called like GUTS, right? Where there's an anxiety, but it's a euphoric anxiety.
Yeah.
And when we get into drugs and stuff like that, that's all part of it.
Yeah.
But when you can find something from your childhood that genuinely kind of like made you question existence and reality and shit,
Yeah.
and it doesn't fucking hurt you, like you can hang on to that.
Because
That's it. Like I got sober. And that's when it did, because it triggers those buttons. Like I'm the fear. It gives me the rush that I got from running from the police. But instead, I'm safe on my couch. I got ding dongs.
You're gonna wake up tomorrow morning and you're not in jail or dead, and everything's still good.
It's triggering that.
It's just the stimulant of it. Because like I say, my sister,
That's
I
dope.
think I was like 5 or 6, and it was like Nightmare on Elm Street. You know what I'm saying? My mom loved Halloween, so it was just like. You grow up in that shit, and I used to watch this down Return of the Living Dead. I could watch that shit every day, all day. Like when I first started, like 13, I was like, damn, I never seen nothing like this. I'm like, damn, that made me question, like, damn, people really gonna come out the ground one day. I used to pass by graveyards, like, oh yeah. I'm like, this is a good scene. But you go to funeral, you looking at funerals, like, damn, man.
Ground
what would
zero.
you do if this really happened? And then I start seeing movies with zombies moving slow. I'm like, nah, that's not it. Because I went from Return of the Living Dead, then I went to Night of the Living Dead. I was like, nah, that's not it. But not knowing that movie at that time, Black and White, was the first like black actor.
Black protagonist.
Yeah, to have a star
slapping white dudes around.
Yeah, man, slapping white. You're like, whoa, like I didn't
But
know.
see, and that's the other thing too, though. Those movies, the social commentary in those movies, just like with horrorcore rap, like the social commentary, like that's more real. The social commentary in them is more real than any other fucking movie you're gonna see around from that year.
Any homogenized writers and shit like that.
There was even some social commentary in the movie we just came from, Scary Story, about the Vietnam and Nixon and all that kind of stuff, and the kid's name was Morales, and they put wetback on his car and all that kind of, like that's why horror's live, dude.
And that's what good art always has, like good artists always put real reality somewhere in their art.
Yeah,
so you can check it later and make sure it's
real. You kind of question it, like, man, because it's no, like you say, you don't have to hold back on horror. You know what I'm saying?
And going through this whole podcast, I'm starting to kind of catch the thing about horror because I tell them I can't watch movies or TV. I can't. My thing is I like digging through the internet for songs that sound new and different, for something that sounds different. I can do that shit for hours. But I can't watch a 30-minute television.
That's how I do it. Yeah, I don't watch a lot of
so,
that. We went to sleep watching Conjuring for you last night.
Fuck all that.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. We went to bed, like we watching it going to sleep. We like to watch horror movies.
Yeah, we've seen it so much. We've seen it 50,000
Yeah,
times.
so we
See,
love
that's
to
the
sleep watching this
the
shit.
reason that they say that, that's the movie that ruined me. I lived in a fucked up house when I was a kid. And I made it to the small
Like
part of
fucking
Conjuring.
Yes.
Where the thing comes out the cloud, the little fuck that. That's the last. And then, so when that movie came out, I stopped. I walked out of the theater at that thing, and I didn't watch another horror movie till I started this podcast.
Wait, speaking of shit that fucks you up though, what was it about the witch that got you?
Yeah.
Did you see Midsummer?
Yeah.
Midsummer was live.
You don't like that?
I like Midsummer better than The Witch.
Yeah, The Witch kind of bored
I do too. I like Midsummer.
Well, the reason I
like
like the reason I like The Witch is because it was like it encapsulated that time period where it was so miserable, and it was like, okay, there's already nowhere to go. Life is already horrible, and then you're adding this element to it. So it's like it's kicking everybody when they're down. You know, it's making the worst of the worst even worse. You know, where you're like, Jesus Christ. How can, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I like The Witch. Midsummer was dope.
Midsummer just took it there, man.
It's daytime creepy.
It's daytime.
I like a good daytime creepy.
It's just, I had that whole like.
I like the idea too of people looking at fair skinned, blonde hair, blue eyed white people and being like,
Devils.
you know, we don't. Well, but again, art always tells. There's always truth in art. And we don't talk about, and the way that we look on even just history of culture in America, though, is white pagan religion has been like stripped out of white culture through Christianity over the last fucking thousands of years, 1,500 years. We've kind of stripped that out, but we still see manifestations of it everywhere from Space Viking to when you go see a show, a metal show and shit. Like it looks like a fucking druid ritual from like Stonehenge from like 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And so this is always something that's in the back of our psyche, and that movie did a great job of like
they took it
pushing that weird shit out of
Yeah,
you.
even the markings on the walls and shit. Andy was looking them up as we went, right?
Wow.
And they told a story through the whole movie, to where like you would see in one part of the movie things were happy, and then when things got darker, you would see that same symbol, but it would be flipped upside down and backwards.
Yeah.
And it was like, so it's all these small tales that who knows what it does to you subconsciously, but it's the art in it. You know what I'm saying? Where like it takes so much effort to do so little. It's kind of amazing that movies even get made. It's kind of amazing that that's even a thing. That a motherfucker took millions of dollars in 3 years of all these people's lives just to make a 2-hour piece of.
Can you imagine like what was it like? Shit, maybe 67. Can you imagine like Roman Polanski making like Rosemary's Baby back in the day?
Yeah, that's
like sitting across in a room from other people and being like, "Yo, I need this money because
they probably
I want to do this."
Right.
Reading that shit like, oh,
yeah, the beginnings of it. Yeah. That's my mom's
It's a hard sell.
favorite one.
Yeah,
That's
that's
one of my
very
favorites.
hard.
Yeah.
You're like, man, we can't put this shit out. That probably is like,
Y'all out of your minds?
Shining. Classic.
Exorcist, all that.
Yeah.
Man, I read some shit about The Shining the other day that blew my mind. That Kubrick was so on his shit that he down to the caterers. He told everybody that what was her name, Shelley Long. She was that basically he told down to the caterers, to the makeup artists and everything. He's like, hey, treat this woman like shit. and she literally had a mental breakdown during the filming of the movie, and he wanted that because he wanted her to have that fucking stress for like to carry
So what they bring up now called Dr. Sleep.
No.
It's like, it's like the kid that grew up.
The kid that grew
Oh,
up.
wow.
It's kind of
Stephen King.
flashbacks of The Shining.
Because in the book, there's a lot more like telepathic stuff, and everything goes on.
So
there,
he
but we don't
gonna
hear.
Dr. Sleep gonna kind of like bring it back up.
Wow.
It's like there's gonna be some wild shit.
Not to mention they faked the moon landing.
I know, right?
So what's your favorite horror?
Man, I like those slow burners like Rosemary's Baby or Omen 1 or 2.
Okay, classic.
Amen. This is for you.
But when I was
for you.
when I was growing up, my mom worked in like a grocery store, and so I remember when they got the first VHS section there.
Yeah,
And I
man.
just spent the whole time in the horror movie section because that's where the cool covers were. and shit.
Yeah.
Everything from like Creep Show to Critters to like we grew up in a really cool era, and
Critters was my
I feel
shit.
like now it's getting back to that with independent directors and stuff. They're the ones that are really cranking out all the cool shit.
Indie horror is
it's
popping
coming
right
back.
And horror takes over because simple fact horror used to be like, okay, October coming, here come the horror movie. Man, that shit dropping in August.
Fucking right.
January, February. Like, they not playing with that shit.
Because it's one of the few things. So it's horror and superhero movies that are making money.
Yeah.
Because everyone's at home now. We got these great Netflix and all this stuff with endless libraries we can choose from. So people will go to pay money to sit in a community and be scared together. That will never go away. That's why the
like
drive-ins will never die.
Yeah, there's so many remakes of movies, so you're like, okay, I saw that story before. We know how this ended. Like one movie, I forgot, we sat in and got out of it. We was in Dallas. We walked in, we're like, oh shit, this shit's trash.
Who was we
The
watching?
Intruder or something like that. It was something.
It was bullshit.
It was
We actually
bullshit.
went asked for our money back.
Yeah, we left. But
It
like,
was The Intruder.
It was Intruder.
But,
Like, make it good.
Yeah.
I think it was. We were like, man, we saw this, how this gonna end. You know,
Shit outta
it's
here.
like, but a horror movie, we like, man, we're gonna sit to the fucking end of it. I wanna see where this goes, you know?
Just see how violent.
Yeah, man. Like, how can you take like that Midsummer, that first kill, they suicide off the cliff?
The house that
Because they
Jack.
showed the head
I want to see
explode.
that one too.
Oh, House of
You ever seen
Jack.
it?
No, I
You
haven't
ever
seen
seen
that
House
one.
of Jack?
You talking
No,
about
I-
violent?
I think the first time I heard about it actually was I think
We
it was
took
that
the- we
podcast.
took the
I think
nephews
it was
to
with
see
Jared.
that,
But yeah.
It's like a weird.
What?
I don't know. It's
We
so.
took them to see the house that Jack built.
Oh yeah, and we met Joe Bob Briggs there.
Yeah.
People actually walked out.
Yeah.
You know the thing where like
See that? I like
it was
that.
so fucked up. I've never seen that before.
The only time I
These
seen people
motherfuckers
walk out of
was
a
like-
movie was Borat. We
When we
went
went
and saw
to see
Borat.
Borat,
in like
in
Deerbrook
Humboldt.
Mall in Texas. As soon as the gay shit started, like,
They're like, I'm time to go, huh? Yeah, but that house that Jack built, it took levels of, like, the first, like, when he cut the duck foot off and shit.
God.
And then there's one part I have to tell you.
Jesus.
He took his wife and kid on a date. Like, it was like, you know, going out, bring your kids.
It makes my ears ring.
They
thinking
eating
about
and
it.
chilling.
So
Then it goes black. And then it comes back up. He's on a fucking hunting range. And he's hunting these people. He's hunting the wife and the 2 kids.
and it's not
Kills them
about.
all.
It's like fucked up.
It's not
Yeah,
about what
it's-
they
I
do.
love movies like that though because that shit happened.
Yeah.
Like, it happens.
Yeah.
Like,
Wall
And then he
Street.
made up feed the kid pie. Like, he
Get on
was
the
dead.
stick?
Shit. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, you gotta check it out, bro. You gotta check it out. Fucking
So-
we got
sick.
an anniversary movie tonight.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, fucking right.
How
It's
many
a good
years?
one.
9 married.
11 together.
11
That's
They're
dope.
gonna watch the
It's-
house that Jack built.
That was that horror together.
That's the cool thing about having kids though. Like my son is really into this stuff, and so
Oh,
like,
that's
I
dope.
don't watch a lot of TV or movies, but we have watched every horror movie as a kid. Like I get back into it,
Nice.
and then I enjoy watching my kids.
We watch
like,
them watch
and these kids are
them.
so damn desensitized now. Shit that used to trip me up, they're like,
Oh,
They're
yeah.
like, really, those
yeah.
effects are so fucking lame.
My
Oh,
daughter-
yeah, they're like,
It's
that's
fake.
bullshit.
my daughter wanted to watch The Exorcist, and I think I hyped it up too much. And when we watched it, she was like, "Really?" She was
Oh,
like, "Really? Like
man.
this is it?"
But it's kind of like the Beatles. You don't understand.
Yeah, like when we
No,
were watching this.
Yeah.
My mom growing up was like, no, The Exorcist. And like I was at that time, you know, I was 6, 7. I was into Freddy Krueger. He was high in your
Yeah.
dreams, and
Menacing.
that intense like
Yeah.
jolt to your central nervous system. And then she played, no, this is the best horror movie I've ever. It's Exorcist. And I did the same thing. I told her, I was like, Mom, this is lame. And then now that I'm older and I realize what The Exorcist actually did,
Yeah, yeah.
it brought horror mainstream. First
Yeah.
of all, you don't realize that there was people with Bibles in front of the movies
Yeah.
picketing.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself in that time capsule and realize what it did and what it meant at the time. Like the first Halloween.
Yeah.
That can't, when you watch that now, it's so slow and boring. But at the time,
The shape.
Yeah, that shit was fucked
that
up.
brought slashers mainstream.
Yeah.
That was like
Yeah,
one of the
yeah,
first
yeah,
ones
yeah.
to bring slasher to pop culture.
He brought that shit into like a suburban
Poltergeist.
neighborhood fucking killer that's like slashing people.
The Exorcist is
Like,
probably one of the first ones that got me as a kid though, because I remember I was visiting one of my parents, and we didn't have remote controls then. Even
Oh, yeah.
like we had this little box on top of the TV that had like 8 little buttons.
Yeah.
That's all the channels you had. And I was at my dad's, and I was staying at my dad's for the first time. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and we had this fucking couch that was up off the ground. And that movie started. I didn't even know what it was, but by the time it started and got into it, it was dark. I'd never been in this house before, and I got too creeped out to walk across the room to go touch that goddamn box. So I just sat there and I had to watch it the whole time, and I was maybe like 6 or 7.
Oh, yeah.
And that shit fucked me up.
Dude, have you heard of like all the behind the scenes shit that's
Yeah,
happening? Like,
man, all the curse shit. And
yeah, fucking people.
And
up.
also too, they had great special effects in that
Yeah.
movie.
The
The
makeup.
head spinning.
And
Shit,
and
her
yeah,
mom
that,
was
the
still
makeup's
backwards
really
and
good.
shit.
Seeing a young girl stab herself in the crotch with a
Yeah.
crucifix.
I
like,
know.
that was-
Yeah,
like,
blood and shit. Like,
Come on, like-
hey,
A
yeah.
jolt, yeah.
As a kid, I never saw those shit like
Yeah.
that.
I never even thought about it. It breaks your brain.
Yeah.
Did you say Poltergeist earlier?
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist.
You know where we live? We live in Crosby, Texas.
Mm.
And Poltergeist is actually based on the Black Hope Horror, which is in our neighborhood.
No shit.
And so instead of it being an Indian burial ground like it is in Poltergeist,
More
where we
PC
live
movies.
in Crosby is there's Crosby and then there's Barrett Station. Barrett Station was the first, like, one of the first places in this part of Texas where slaves could own land.
Mm.
And so instead of it being an Indian burial ground like it is in the movie, it was a slave cemetery. And so where we live in a little subdivision over there called Newport. It was built on
Pop
the slave cemetery.
Oh,
slave
shit.
cemetery. And you can go back in the forest, like where we
Houston
live now.
Chronicle, you can read up on it. There's actually a book called The Black Hope Horror. Google
See,
it, read
I'll
on
sell
it.
Oh, yeah. That's fucking-
We should go there and
Hey, I
podcast.
ain't gonna lie, Poltergeist was one of the ones I was like, oh shit.
See, I
That's where it's
never.
based
Yeah.
off
That
of.
paranormal
Yeah.
stuff, I'm like,
Crazy.
damn.
You go back in the woods where we live now, and there's still gravestones and tombstones.
Unmarked.
Oh, no
unmarked
shit.
tombstones.
Oh, we gotta go,
Yeah.
man. We gotta go.
Oh
man.
yeah, we should do that
Yeah,
shit.
Yeah, bro, we gotta go, man.
Where the
Hell
river
yeah.
and stuff is that
Yeah.
Yeah,
gotta go.
make put light candles and
We
shit.
could do
Oh
like a
yeah.
live podcast.
I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah.
Y'all doing
I got a
this
book.
shit
I'll
wrong.
send you a real story.
That's
Fuck
so
all that.
Kid, you're coming. Bring your stuff.
Kid, you're coming,
What
kid.
people don't understand is, all right, what? Hold up.
Now we'll go
Y'all
camp out
know-
there overnight.
Really,
Yeah.
but you could really
You
bring
coming,
shit
kid.
back. You don't understand that these
We'll
things
save
are
you.
real. You could bring.
I got an egg. I'll
So
owe
look.
you.
So look, my
Okay.
baby mama has a daughter, right? And she's 9. And about 4 years ago, when I was living at my other house, she got, I forgot the name of the thing, but it was a brain infection. And she had to go into the really critical care ward for children, right? So we spent 3 days there, of course, you know, back and forth. Well, after going there, and there was a lot of children that died there, right? So I go back to my house, and that's when one of the things happened. So we go, and we're sitting, and every day I would do the same thing. I would come home from work, I would empty all my shit out of my pocket, and all my change out of my other pocket, and leave it on the table, and that's where my shit sat till I got up the next day, right? Well, there was a point in time we were sleeping in the living room, and we heard scratching across the table,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What the fuck is that? And we walked in, and all the change is in little piles. Nobody was in there. And it happened the next night. And then the dog started freaking out and barking at Wall. And then it happened the next night. So it happened 4 nights in a row. So finally I walked across the street to the Catholic church in the middle of a night service where these old Mexican ladies are praying and stuff. I'm just like, I'm sorry, but Padre, me and you need to talk. And I got him, and I waited till service, and I walked him across the street, and he blessed that house. And what he told me is something came back from the hospital with me. So y'all motherfuckers want me to go.
What you messed up and didn't do is you didn't have your red string tied around your wrist to protect you from
Yeah.
evil.
Yeah, dumbass.
Sorry, I forgot my red
You
string.
idiot.
Now you know.
Now I know.
Stupid moron.
Tie yourself up. with
So
some
y'all
red
talking about I'm a pussy. Fuck all that.
Well, you done
He's a
psychedelics
made
and
of
shit. like
Velcro.
that, right?
Yeah.
It sticks to him.
So like on psychedelics and stuff, like I've seen some like crazy shit.
Yeah. And I mean, one of your, a part of you could say that it's just a drug talk, but the other one could say it's the world that's really around you being
You seeing all the gin.
fucking right,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
They coming in for you, Ken.
Shit can get real squirrely real fast.
I used to live in this house in New Orleans. It was an old ass house, and it had like a little spiral staircase. And when I was a kid, I dreamt every night while we were there that I'd be at the bottom of the stairs and I'd be looking up, and there would be like this figure. And you could tell it was a human form, but you couldn't see like details. Like you couldn't see little fingers and shit, but you could tell it was a human form. And it was just like smoke, but like in human form.
Yeah.
And I would try to talk to it because this shit happened every night to where I would be aware that I was dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'd be like, what do you want? And I remember trying to talk to it. It would talk back to me, but it would sound like the fucking teachers from the Charlie Brown.
Oh,
And
shit.
so it
Yeah.
couldn't make out words. And it used to trip me out. I used to tell my parents all about it, and I still to this day have like letters that I would write to it and that I would leave on the top step hoping that
You can
I would
find
get some kind of
I
answer. or
love
some shit
this
like
kind of
that.
stuff.
As soon as we moved out of that
Text
house,
message.
never again. Like no more dreams. Like it was gone.
I
And
love
so,
these kind of stories.
I don't know
man.
like what I believe or how much I believe in ghosts and shit, but I do know I dreamt that every night. And as soon as we moved out of there, I never dreamt it again.
I
Damn.
had a haunted townhouse that we had blinds on the second floor, and I had a dresser in front of it because I was always paranoid of somebody looking because I lived in Greens Point, so
Yeah.
you're always worried about people looking out the window. And so my dad had got me this big dresser and I had put it in front of it. But I remember walking up one afternoon and I look up at the second floor, and right in the middle of the window you see like the blinds are bent, like somebody was peeking out. And so I remember reaching over, I could barely reach it, and I fixed it. And then there was always one corner on the townhouse, even though our next door neighbors were 2 flats, it wasn't a townhouse, but you could hear somebody running up and down our stairs, even
Oh,
though there
shit.
was nobody there. And every day I'd have to come and fix that damn blinds. And I named it Ricky. I thought if you named it something nice, it'd be nice. And I was pregnant, I got
Ricky
pushed
sounds
down a
like
flight
a
of stairs.
uncle.
Damn. I love creepy stories.
Yeah, man. That's fucking
This
awesome, man.
this is my favorite episode
man.
we've done.
Fucking dope, man.
I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
I feel that rush, and then I'm gonna eat some chips.
And it's like, fuck that, I'm out of here.
Because it happened twice to me. Once when I was a kid, and I've told that story on the podcast before, where like I didn't have a choice. We didn't have money. We couldn't move. We were stuck in that fucking house. And I was a latchkey kid. My mom didn't get home till 7. So from 3 to 7 every day, I'd stay in that fucking magnolia tree in the front yard. I wouldn't go in that house. But at night, you're stuck. Where else you gonna sleep? You know? So it fucking burned me for life. You know, it's so fucked up the things that happen in that house. Fuck that.
Man, I think I would have loved something. I just got yelled at a lot.
You didn't need the spirits.
I was like, somebody save me, please. I just got yelled at and kicked out of St. Michael's in the 3rd grade and 5 high schools.
But everything was creepy, man. My grandmother had a Ouija board and shit.
Yeah.
So
That's real.
That was you know, and I never forget I was
Did
young.
y'all fuck with it as a kid?
They didn't let us fuck with it, but I remember like people like would come over there and they'd be in my grandfather's room fucking with it.
But y'all weren't allowed to do
Nah. And what was crazy because you know, it was in Port Acres and Port Arthur, and it's like there's some for reason grandparents' houses creep you out anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They
Because
got that old knowledge.
you can't do a bunch of shit. Because they be like, don't sit here, don't touch this, don't do that. But it was just like, damn, they got a Ouija board. And I remember like going past my grandmother's room and I could see them like kind of like, I was like, man, what the fuck they doing in there, man? Like, and then now when you see movies about Ouija boards and stuff, because I want to know how original theirs was. I want to know all that, like where it come from.
Yeah.
Who thought of that? Like that type of deal. And it's just.
it was actual wood and
It's actually. It's like, man. It's just, when you think about it now, you're like, man, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, was they contacting people? Because you know when you sleep at your grandmother's house, you hear a bunch of shit at night.
Yeah.
And it's pitch black dark. And it wasn't like, oh yeah, y'all turn the TV off and y'all go to sleep. No. 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah, you're in bed
It's
early.
pitch black. And you just up. There's a bunch of y'all in there. And you're like, oh shit, I hear that shit too.
Old houses make
It's not like I only hear the whole room hear that shit. It's like, what the fuck? Creepy, man. I still need to ask my aunt that, man. Like, man, what was going on about that, man? That's just, I think that's what drew me to like horror, man. Because it wasn't, like you say, it was like a getaway. And it wasn't like, okay, this can't really happen, but can it happen? Or did it ever happen? That's why Freddie fucked with me so much because you couldn't go to sleep.
Yeah, and like,
Like, I need
who
rest.
hadn't had a nightmare as a kid?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That you can't control. You're just stuck in.
That you can't control, like them dreams within the dreams and shit. Like you wake up out the dream and you still in that dream. You're like, what the fuck, man? That shit just, you know.
As we talk about it too, though, I was like into like Fangoria, like magazines,
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff like that too. And I think now, like just as we're talking about it, that's our way of being interested in something like that is your way of kind of confronting it. You know,
Yeah,
being a man about it when you're a little kid.
Yeah,
you know what I
man,
mean?
because
It's
it's like
your
I
parents
couldn't.
used to love to traumatize you.
Yeah, on the
What's
cool.
that fucked up prayer they used to say before you go? Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep, and if I die before I wake, I pray to the Lord my soul to take. Good night.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Sweet
it.
dreams.
Dreams. Go to
What
bed.
the fuck?
Like, oh shit. It's like, it's just deep, man. Horror to me, like you say, is and then how the music interplay with horror. Every hip hop artist then has some way of talking about a horror, being like Bushwick Bill was Chucky.
Man, that's a
You know what
good,
I'm saying?
good
Like
segue.
that type of shit like that. Even Will Smith did, and Fat Boys did Freddie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince had a song about
Freddie.
Yeah,
and shit,
that was
man.
like maybe even before Ghetto Boys actually did Assassination or
That's
anything.
like
It
I was letting
it wasn't like super horrorcore, you know what I mean?
It was fun.
Yeah,
It was
like
It was fun. It was fresh.
The Gangster Nip the other day. He had this shit was horror.
Yeah.
Horror movies, rap, man. He was just on that shit.
Yeah, he turned me on the South Park
That's
Psycho.
where Texas comes in clutch for me because you had West Coast music and East Coast music going there, and so these guys are talking about hitting licks back in the day and shit like that, but it was really like the Ghetto Boys and Gangsta Nip wrote Bushwick Bill's verse on Chucky.
No shit.
That's actually
Wow.
Gangsta Nip actually wrote
You
that
know,
shit.
now that you hear it, you could
You
kind
can
of like,
hear it, you can hear on that
yeah.
shit. And so you had these West Coast artists and the gang shit just started encroaching that. But Houston at that time, we didn't have gang culture like that.
Yeah.
People affiliated in the neighborhoods and subdivisions
Yeah.
more so than like a set.
Yeah.
But so these guys are talking about shooting somebody, and these guys are like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah.
We're gonna smoke some wet or fried, what they called it back then. We're gonna smoke some fried, and we're gonna decapitate women.
Yeah.
Like they just fucking took it up a notch.
Yeah.
Anybody can shoot somebody.
That
but
boy had
check
a
this
line
shit
say,
out.
"Well, I woke up, I thought about killing my niece." It's like, damn, who the fuck
Yeah.
said that shit?
Like if you
it's
came out
like
with that shit right now, people would flip the fuck
Yeah.
They
out.
would
Shock.
trip out, man.
I love it, man.
Dope ass shit.
Yeah, I don't think there would be a Guts podcast without
Yeah.
Bush with Bill.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the foundation for all of us.
Definitely.
You know, and this podcast.
Bushwick.
R.I.P. to Bushwick,
R.I.P.,
man.
He
Yeah,
was the
they
truth, man.
yeah, he was, and that like that was like my first thing to kind of like him doing the Chucky doll like that struck a that.
Bro, that Mike
that
that Trey
Mike-
Songz video,
Trey
like
Songz,
shit,
man.
man.
When you listen
He
to
freaked
it-
him being a midget just fucking freaked me out
Right,
too, as a kid.
no, but it's like that line. This year Halloween fell on the weekend.
Yeah.
Me, Ghetto Boys are trick or treat. That's like, I want to live the rest of my life like that.
Yeah,
Jesus
them boys.
I don't give a fuck. I want every day to be like
Well,
that.
man, that level of storytelling, and
Yeah.
I forget who you guys were talking to. You guys have one podcast, you're talking to everybody, and everyone says, like the Mike Jones and the Paul Walls and stuff, but like one of y'all said something about like, what about Scarface? Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
like
That's
really
my
when
guy, man.
Yeah.
when I checked out of Houston music during the Mike Jones Paul Wall era, and again, no disrespect to any of them or anything like that, but my first introduction to Houston music was the Ghetto Boys,
Yeah.
and then Gangsta Dip, and
Yeah.
and then even like SPM,
Yeah.
stuff after that. But Scarface really, like his ambitions. He tried to set Houston up the way it needed to be set up, the way these kids want to do it now. Scarface was a world artist.
Yeah.
He wasn't concerned
He
with just
told
being in the
stories,
city
man.
or nothing.
Yeah.
He told stories.
Yeah.
He worked with the whole reason Mike Dean is who he is today, and is Kanye's dude, and fucks with Travis Scott to this day, is because he did a song, he did a couple joints with Scarface, and Kanye liked those mixes so well. He's like, who's mixing your shit?
Yeah.
And that's how Kanye discovered Mike Dean. And now Mike Dean is like living in New York, but still putting Houston artists on.
Yeah.
All over the world.
Like Don Toliver.
Like Don
He gonna
Toliver.
be
absolutely.
so-
Yeah.
Hey, little points from the nephew.
Hey,
Yeah, man. Dean's doing all the final mixing and mastering on Don's album that's fixing to drop like
Man, I
any
can't
moment now.
They
It's
would
gonna be on
love, they
some
would
next
love
level
to come
shit,
in the
bro.
studio and hang
Hey,
out.
Don
anytime you
Toliver
guys
is
want to
so
come through, man.
He recorded a lot of Don Toliver stuff.
One of his friends went to Barron Studios. Who was that?
This girl, Genese.
Do you know her? Is that her artist name? Or?
Yeah, that's her artist name.
I'm not
Genese.
sure. I don't think I worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wants.
We have a lot of engineers though. We at that studio we crank out about 5,000 something tracks a year
wow.
Damn.
with
Working.
5 engineers. So
Working.
each one of us does it like we'll
1,000 a year.
That's dope.
I'll show you who she is.
Well, the great thing about Don is he's kind of like Scarface, where his talent is undeniable. You know what I'm saying? It's supernatural to him. Don could do that shit that he does over any beat, and to drop it with Don, he could freestyle like that. It's so weird. And Scarface, when he wrote international type
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Like he didn't have to. He was literally born with it. He can naturally tell stories and word things to where it's sophisticated but simplistic at the same time. It's almost impossible to do. It's the mark everybody's trying to hit, and it happened to him naturally before everybody.
Man, Don blew me away. Just as a talent, like blew me away. He was the only kid that would come into a session, and we would listen to Bobby Womack albums before we started recording stuff. Like he was trying to get that soul in. This is right around when we like I Got It and Diva and stuff like that. Like he was trying to get that soul element back into
Get
it.
into it.
That's why his first mixtape is called Donnie Moore.
Yeah, exactly.
And his freestyle ability
Barnes.
is ridiculous.
Hey,
He's from Houston, so.
Yeah, but like By Breezy, she's a promoter in Houston.
Yeah.
He came up through all her shows. Trill Stanley, Dice Soho, all these guys now, they all know each other. They all fuck with each other. The dope thing about Houston music right now, though, you could take like Toby Nwigwe, Jet, Curly Sue,
Tisa.
Don Toliver, Tisa. You can take all these guys, and none of them sound like each other. Like we've just like no one sounds a fucking.
And that's what I love, because back then when Houston was popping, I think the downfall to it was everybody they either sounded like each other or they were saying the same things as each
It's
other.
just putting your own little twist to it. Like, oh, okay, instead of, because there was one verse, I think what Kiki said, he said, like, from Herschelwood to Hollywood. And I think Slim Thug ended up saying from Homestead to Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's just a mix of it. You know, DJ Screw, 5,000 watts. But now, like you say, you could hear, especially the underground, man. You be like, God damn, I didn't know.
Bro, these underground artists sound better than any mainstream
Man,
shit
they
that's out
got it.
there.
They got it going.
Jet, come on,
Jet the
man.
Third.
Jet the
Third is my favorite. She
Jet
blows
the
my
Third
mind,
is
man.
the shit, man.
That her
That never
voice.
mind
When we
all
talked
that,
to her, I
yeah.
was like, you sound. I get like a Sade from the
Sade,
hood type
yeah.
vibe.
She got this quality about her, man. She could be singing whatever on whatever kind of beat, and it sounds like her, and it sounds. It's not sad or depressing, but
It's
there's
awesome.
like a melancholy.
No,
it just makes you feel.
It makes you
something.
feel like you're
Yeah.
getting like held,
Yeah.
Yeah, like
but
her music's
also
like a
you
boom,
feel,
yeah.
but also you feel like a pimp at the
Yeah.
same time. And
She's so cool, man.
yeah, shout out to Jet the Third. We love you, man.
Yeah, Jet.
Speaking of greatness, I personally think we're talking to the next Mike Dean myself.
Hey.
He's got like 10 years. I think he's in his 50s. He's got 10 years on me, so I got a little time to get.
It's
to
2019,
that level.
whatever.
But I don't know, man. I'm kind of ready to be done engineering for a little bit. I don't know.
What you want to do?
I don't know.
Are you gonna put together what you're saying with the underground compilation?
I want to I just want to keep
visions?
fucking around with these kids and just
Yeah.
kind of, I want to watch what they do, like an archaeologist almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I just want to see. I want to write it down. I want to just start getting everybody on content.
And we got-
what you guys are doing too, like
Yeah.
putting content together, just putting it out. I want people 20 years from now. I want them to look back on shit.
Yeah.
I want to see some movie about fucking Houston music, and I want Dib on the fucking soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I want Diva on the soundtrack. I want 40 Days on this and 40 Nights on the soundtrack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we're in this moment, and now I feel like these kids know how to fucking package it.
Yeah.
You
They got
know,
these
content
other-
creators like y'all know how to take different things
Yeah.
that still fuck with each other and put them in these concentric circles with each other.
Well, we've been jamming. What we did, they came on the other night. Space City Lords.
Yeah.
Check them out. They
Oh yeah, shout out to Space City
Space
Lords,
City
man.
Lords. Our boy Ghost, man. Shout out to Ghost. He out of South Park too, and it's like he got a whole different style. You know what I'm saying about him too. And his name Ghost. It's like that's
What I
perfect.
noticed about that, like that whole moment in time thing is, you know, I've been doing podcasts for a minute, right? And then once I got involved with this one, I kind of brought some like preconceived notions and ideas into the podcast. You know, like, no, we need to do it like this. We need to format it like this. But as soon as I let go of those things and I was like, fuck all that, let's just make the rules ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's just do what we do. You know, let Space Viking do what he does. Let Zano do what he does. Space Viking loves music. Loves movies and horror movies, and he knows all these weird things about him. Let him express those things any way he wants.
Yeah.
This motherfucker knows anything and everything about that. Any shoe that's coming out in 3 years, this motherfucker knows about. You know what I'm saying? Let him just do what he wants with it. And so as soon as we stop asking permission from ourselves and trying to like fit into all these other boxes and just doing what we wanted, it kind of took on a life of its own. We started having a lot more fun with it.
That's the same thing with music, though. That's the same thing where music's at too. Is I work with a lot of kids that they'll come in and they'll have a truck fit hat and a pair of Vans and some long dreads and obviously like you want to sound like Lil Wayne, like that's what you grew up on. I get it, but that's cool to get started. That's cool to figure shit out. But as soon as I can have that conversation with, what do you sound like?
Yeah, what do you do?
Like that's what you got to get to. And when you G.U.T.S, a perfect example of stuff like this. When we did some stuff, I remember posting something on my IG, and a lot of OG rappers that I fuck with heavy as human beings were just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like people are questioning the existence of music based on this stuff, and it got such a strong reaction. Either people were like, I love it, or people were like, shit emojis. Like it got such a strong reaction that it just it felt the same way when I listened to like Black Flag or like the Sex Pistols when I was a kid.
Either you
I love Sex Pistols.
Like it was just,
you really get it or you don't.
we made something in 10 minutes. Like he literally in 10 minutes, we made something in 10 minutes that he got a record deal off.
Yeah.
And it was just like we had 10 minutes in the session. And I was like, I'm not. There's no way for me to take 10 minutes off. Go jump in the booth and do something. And he did. And then it went viral and took off. And like that's the potential for everything that we do.
Yeah, man.
It's fucking awesome. awesome.
It's fucking dope. Man.
Yeah.
We live in a cool. I say it all the time. The world we live in is fucking dope, man. We're so lucky, and not just that, man. So we had this childhood where it was full of cool shit, and we have all the nostalgia from like the VHS, cool horror movies, Sunday cartoons, with cereal,
Saturday mornings.
all that shit, right?
Lots
And
of
then we get to
cereal.
grow up and still live in this. It's fucking. It's the coolest generation. Everybody else should be jealous of us.
Well, what's cool
80s crack babies.
you get to watch the younger generation experience it for their first time.
But they're gonna even do it better though, because so much of what we got to experience was because big companies and shit let it happen. But now kids are able to create more information than overlords or companies can fucking know what to do with it. So we're seeing a more accurate slice of stuff.
They could tell us anything back there. You're like, oh, that's right. Nah, that ain't right.
Yeah.
That ain't what he said in this page. Like, damn, they could Google this shit and be on your ass. We had to go to
We were
research.
pre-fact check.
We had like Encyclopedia Britannicas and shit.
And they knew you wanted to go read it.
And then you had like that know-it-all guy that you were just like, man, and you couldn't argue, but now you can be
Yeah,
like,
you can argue with it.
Ted, I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't say that shit in 1958.
Actually, Ted,
Yeah, man. So,
yeah.
that was a great, man.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Man, thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for
We gotta
coming.
do this again.
Yeah, hey, good vibes, bro.
Man,
Good vibes and blessings,
I
man.
love the podcast. I love what you guys are doing for the city. The way that you guys are able to do something you love and bring everyone else into it and just see the cross referencing like that. That's what we need. That's a scene.
Definitely.
Like that's
Nice.
exactly what- Thank you for having us.
Happy anniversary, motherfucker.
Hey! Yeah, thank you for spending your anniversary
I
time
know,
here.
man. That means so much to us. No, we got an anniversary, man. We
Yeah.
like, hey, if they came on their
No,
anniversary.
this is great. I never go nowhere. I never get out of the house. I don't go out much. My wife is like, nah, you need to go. And anything that Ken's a part of, I want to be a part of.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Jason, man, thanks so much.
Yeah, bro.
It's really helpful to have you
All the
here.
time.
Drop
Really
for us,
grateful.
man.
Oh yeah, and what do you have coming out
Yeah.
for the future?
How
Or
can they find you and everything else?
Got a new studio coming out.
hey,
I'm so excited about this, y'all.
BYOE.
Probably in the next 4, 5, 8 weeks, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
awesome.
It's construction. Yeah,
That's
it's real.
early.
It's,
Small.
it's an open concept studio called Barron Collective. At the Barron Studios now is you have to book. It has an engineer there.
Yeah.
We all have our own spots and everything. The new place though is different concept. We're getting rid of fucking booths, getting rid of everything, and
Engineers.
it's set up for producers and engineers. I think producers that make music at home are the next level of
Yeah.
engineers.
I think songwriters gonna be able to make some money there too.
Hold on.
Collecting tracks.
Location the same.
It's so we're gonna have our same location. This is about 50 minutes from where we are, Hempstead 610 area.
Okay.
So
Dope.
Fuck yeah.
not too far from here actually.
I'm so excited.
Podcast, artists,
Yeah,
engineers.
like hey,
Hey.
as soon as we got one of the rooms set up, you guys need to come on and shoot
Fuck
shoot an
yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We bring our boy Slumps them too. Slump Sessions. Shout out to Slump Sessions too.
Shout out
man.
to Slump, baby,
Quest, man.
Shout out to
is
Quest.
awesome, man.
and shout out to everything.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much for coming on, man.
For GUTS Podcast,
This ain't no division.
Space Viking.
Loki as me.
Idreaminstereo.
Ha!